There's something weird about watching Obi-Wan Kenobi spiral into depression in a cave, while the one guy who could have actually helped him just floats off screen like a Force ghost on vacation. We got Vader dragging civilians through the dirt, and Obi-Wan having flashbacks of Clone Wars Anakin looking suspiciously older than his own grandson. But not one memory of Qui Gon teaching Anakin how to breathe through a panic attack, or telling Obi-Wan not to be such a stick in the mud. That's not a creative choice. That's a cry for help. I mean, let's be real. The show had everything teed up, like it was ready to knock nostalgia out of the park. We had the actors, we had the trauma. We even had Liam Neeson hiding behind the curtain like he was waiting for the last 5 minutes to clock in. And instead of showing us something meaningful, they gave us a Force Ghost cameo with the emotional weight of a cereal commercial. It's like buying a cake and then forgetting to bake it. You've got a Jedi Master who literally died begging his apprentice to protect the most unstable child in the galaxy, and a Padawan turned mentor who then spent the next 20 years blaming himself for everything. But somehow, no one in the writing room thought, hey, maybe we should let these two talk about the dead guy who started this whole mess. Nope, just keep walking in the desert, and occasionally whisper Qui-Gon's name into the wind, like he's beat. And look, I love a moody Obi-Wan as much as anyone. But he's not Batman. He's not brooding because it looks cool. He's grieving because the one man who believed in Anakin got taken out before he could finish the job, and the guy left to clean up the mess was barely old enough to rent a speeder. This wasn't a master and apprentice relationship. It was a crash course in emotional negligence with lightsabers. That's why it hurts, because deep down, we all know Qui-Gon would have made a difference. He would have told Anakin to slow down, to breathe, to feel, not suppress everything until it boiled over in the worst possible way. And Obi-Wan, he would have had someone to talk to before turning into a haunted man whispering into sand dunes and hoping for a ghost to answer. In this video, we're breaking down the emotional black hole at the heart of the Obi-Wan series, why the absence of Qui-Gon and Anakin flashbacks left the story limping, and how one simple memory could have made this series unforgettable, instead of just mildly nostalgic. When the Obi-Wan series was announced, fans started mentally editing it before a single frame was shot. We pictured Obi-Wan haunted by regrets, lost in memories, wrestling with the ghost of his greatest failure. And let's be honest, everyone assumed we'd get some kind of flashback to Qui-Gon and Anakin. The emotional setup was right there, just waiting to be used. We imagined a young Anakin training with Obi-Wan, a glimpse of Qui-Gon offering wisdom from the shadows, maybe even some tender moment that tied back to Kenobi's pain in the present. Instead, what we got was a lot of caves, some sand, and the occasional PTSD stare-off into the middle distance. It's not bad storytelling, but it's storytelling with the volume turned way down. There was this massive emotional void sitting at the heart of the show, a hole shaped like a Tatooine sunset and a missing mentor. Qui-Gon wasn't just a side character in The Phantom Menace. He was the spiritual thread that connected Obi-Wan and Anakin long before the galaxy exploded. So why didn't we get to feel that connection? It wasn't about fan service, it was about context, giving us a memory. Even just one moment of Qui-Gon guiding Anakin would have grounded everything. It would have shown us not just what Obi-Wan lost, but what Anakin never really had. And that's the tragedy that Star Wars keeps tiptoeing around. Instead, we got a hint of Qui-Gon right at the end. Here's what makes it so frustrating. The show knew it needed emotional depth. You could see it trying. There were flashbacks with Hayden as Anakin. There were dramatic pauses, and lots of close-ups of Obi-Wan looking sad while soft music played. But somehow, they skipped over the one thing that could have made it all land with actual weight. They had Liam Neeson back. They had Hayden Christensen back, and yet no one thought, hey, maybe let's show Qui-Gon talking to Anakin, when he was still that scared little boy with big eyes and bigger expectations. Instead, we get wide shots of Obi-Wan brooding in a cave like he's on a Jedi-sponsored silent retreat. The whole show is built on regret. Obi-Wan's regret over Anakin, over the war, over everything he didn't do. But we never get to see what that actually means. No memory of Qui-Gon telling him to trust the boy. No moment where young Anakin is just being a kid. It's like the writers were allergic to warmth, unless it came from a desert sun. We spent 6 episodes watching Obi-Wan work through trauma with the emotional toolkit of a rock. But they never once gave him a flashback that showed us what he lost. We were just expected to remember it from 1999 and move on. That's not character development. That's homework. It's not that the show was bad, it's that it missed its own best chance to be unforgettable. All it had to do was turn the camera back for 5 minutes and show us why any of this still hurts. The saddest part is that Qui-Gon and Anakin's bond was never allowed to grow. It began in the fires of a Padris and ended with a red blade through the gut. And the one person who carried the weight of that unfinished story was Obi-Wan. A man who watched his mentor die and then promised to train the boy neither of them truly knew yet. There's a reason that scene at the end of Phantom Menace hits so hard. Qui Gon's dying words aren't about the war or the council. They're about Anakin. Protect the boy. Train the boy. Believe in the boy. And then he's gone, leaving Obi-Wan with a promise and no real guidance on how to keep it. Anakin never got closure. Never got to ask the questions that haunted him. Never heard another story. Never felt safe again. All he had was a Jedi Order that never truly trusted him, and a master who was still learning to be a man himself. That kind of emotional vacuum leaves a scar no lightsaber can fix. The Obi-Wan show had a golden chance to show us what Anakin lost when Qui Gon died. Not power or prophecy, but family. A father figure who actually listened. Someone who saw the child, not just the destiny. That loss shaped Anakin far more than any Clone War or Sith whisper ever could. But they never showed it. Not once. And so the pain that defines both Obi-Wan and Anakin remains unspoken. Silent. Drifting in space like a memory the story was too scared to revisit. Imagine one flashback. Just one scene, nestled between battles and brooding. Young Anakin and Qui Gon in the Jedi Temple garden. Qui Gon kneeling beside him, explaining what the Force feels like, how to listen. Not just to follow rules, but to understand. That one moment could have changed the entire show's tone. It would have recontextualized everything Obi-Wan was fighting for. Not just surviving, not just keeping Luke safe, but honoring the man who gave him a mission and a family in one breath. Qui Gon wasn't just his master, he was his anchor, his compass, his moral center in a galaxy that was falling apart. Seeing that memory through Obi-Wan's eyes would have done more than any training montage or action scene ever could. It would have given us a glimpse of the light he was still holding on to. The reason he stayed in exile. The reason he still believed something could be saved. Star Wars has always been about legacy, about what we pass on, about who teaches us how to be more than what the galaxy wants us to be. Qui Gon was that teacher. For Obi-Wan and for Anakin, a single flashback could have reminded us of that truth. It could have been the emotional glue that pulled the whole show together. Instead, the pieces sat there scattered, untouched, and never quite connecting. The show had power, it just needed purpose. And a little memory could have lit up everything. Here's the thing, it's not too late. The story of Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Qui Gon doesn't have to end with a wave and a see you around. The door is wide open for more. A second season, a special episode, something that fills in those missing pieces with heart instead of spectacle. They've already planted the seeds. Obi-Wan reconnecting with the Force. Qui Gon's spirit, making contact. There's room for more than just vague mysticism and skywalking lectures. There's room for memory, for honesty, for the kind of emotional payoff that Star Wars usually saves for the very end. Imagine a series of quiet flashbacks, woven into Obi-Wan's present, him remembering Qui Gon's teachings while guiding a younger Jedi, or watching over Luke from afar. Moments where he sees Anakin as a child again, not to blame himself, but to forgive them both. We don't need giant battles. We don't need 10 new villains in silly hats. We just need truth. We need connection. And we need to see what the galaxy lost when it lost Qui-Gon Jinn. Because understanding that is how we understand everything that came after. There's hope in the idea that the Force still speaks, not through explosions or lightsabers, but through quiet memories that never stopped echoing in the people left behind. In the end, the Obi-Wan series gave us pieces. It gave us tension, regret, and beautiful performances. But not the one thing that could have tied it all together. The silence around Qui-Gon and Anakin wasn't just a missed opportunity, it was a missed truth. Because their connection was the origin of everything, and it was never shown. Obi-Wan's failure wasn't just in training Anakin. It was in never understanding what the boy needed. And how could he, when the one man who might have taught him died too soon? Qui-Gon was more than a Jedi. He was a bridge between heart and code, between love and discipline. And that bridge collapsed when no one rebuilt it. Anakin became Darth Vader not just because he was broken, but because no one ever taught him how to heal. Not with sermons, not with lightsaber forms, but with compassion, with trust, with the kind of wisdom Qui-Gon carried, but never got to pass on. The tragedy isn't just what happened to Anakin or Obi-Wan, it's that they were both just boys following ghosts in the dark, haunted by what could have been if only someone had shown them how to carry the light without being blinded by it. And that's the story the Obi-Wan show could have told. Not just one of survival, but of memory, of grief, of the one man who could have changed everything, but was never given the screen time to prove it. Thank you for watching the whole video. I make videos because of my love for Star Wars and Marvel. I've been asked countless times how I get my subtitles, and I generate them automatically with a tool I built. That same tool can be used here on my website. It's completely free and doesn't require signing up. My website contains the subtitle generator that is perfect for any video. Blogging post, where you can sign up with your email and receive notifications for when I post, and also my 3 channels. Critical Analysis Hub focuses on Star Wars and Marvel movies. Critical Analysis Hub Plus looks at Star Wars and Marvel shows. And Critical Analysis Hub XP centers on video games, like The Last of Us series, Jedi Survivor, and GTA 5. Thank you for being a fan.